they say they read, all their comments, the emails and YouTube and all that stuff. And, great. But still, there's something to be said for being able to get up and voice your opinion. And you'll know when people truly disagree with something because there's a crowd there.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the 435 podcast. Again, today we have in the running candidate for Washington City Council, Ed Tracey. Thanks for being here today, man.
You bet.
We had a great conversation about his candidacy, why he's running, what's important to him. He's not from the area, so he's a great fresh perspective. We talked about that. We talked about water. We talked about the importance of businesses in Washington City and what that can mean for the community. So we hope you enjoy this episode. Want to make sure you get out and vote. November 21st, it's coming up soon. This episode should be airing right before this deadline's coming up, so you have the ballots in the mail. Hopefully this is a good education piece for you to make a good decision if you're in Washington City. And if you're not in Washington City, I hope you get to know Ed a little bit more, but you're from Southern Utah. Great personality, doing a lot for the community, so I commend you for that. But enjoy the episode, guys. We'll see you out there.
Hey, everyone. The St. George election this year is incredibly important. Go to votestg.com to see who's running and what they stand for, or visit us at our voter booth at Digby's Market, Red Rock Bicycles, or down in the park.
This is great, though. I love this.
Yeah.
Like I was just telling your buddy here.
Blake Norton, Mallory Roberts. They
always wanted to do one of these in our old
Blue Four
location.
Media.
We had a room about this size. We wanted to put a podcast in there, but then they raised our rent $3,000 a month, and we said, "See ya."
Wow.
A month, 3,000 more.
And
per
when was
month.
this?
December. So we had a 7,000 square foot event center. We did live comedy in there 4 nights a week, 4 nights a month. We did Latin dance nights. We did cabaret shows in there. It was great. And those events went to pay for the event center so that the chamber could have all their events there free of charge. And then they raised the rent. So,
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
duh.
Unless they just didn't want you there anymore.
Well, in fairness, we were subletting from another doctors group that moved out of there for bigger space. So we were on their lease, and when the lease was up, he raised it to market value, which is what happened. So
Yeah.
and it was $11,000 a month by the time it was all said and done. And
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it's the cost of entertainment. Like something
Sure.
you just a lot. I think the general public don't understand because you look at like a movie theater or like an actual event theater, like an amphitheater. Because there's been I've heard some grief in the St. George circles around the city participating in the electric theater. I think there was a lot of like pushback around like donating to arts, right? Just in general, and like should government and city governments be supporting those kinds of things? And at the end of the day, the reality is we probably wouldn't have any at all if it wasn't for some kind of community like sourced income to be able to fund art, because it's so expensive and there's not really a whole lot of money to be made in those things.
No, even the Dixie Center is subsidized. Events are a tough beast. I mean, I did that before I moved here. I was 28 years in the restaurant and hospitality business. I ran comedy shows. I opened for Sinbad for 10 years.
Really?
In my past life.
In your past life when your name wasn't Ed?
Yeah, it was always Ed. It was, but I opened for guys like that. I did comedy. I did the warm up on the Tonight Show, and
oh, cool, man!
It was fun stuff.
You didn't put any of that on your website.
Yeah, no.
I was trying to find out information about you, honestly.
Yeah.
And it was tough.
Get out of here, really?
Well,
my name is everywhere.
Your name's everywhere. Your name's in everywhere. But like actually finding out about you, like in particular, I had a hard time.
So
it wasn't.
Have we started? You want me to just tell you
we're rolling.
So
dude.
I grew up in New York City, born and raised New York City. Left to go in the Air Force. Was Air Force for 12 years. Active duty for 6.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
I would do it again if I wasn't so old and fat. So
we might need you, brother.
Right? No kidding, dude.
Brother.
Put me to work.
They just raised the age. The Air Force just raised
42.
the age.
I mean, it's
my buddy just texted me. He's like, "Hey, dude, it's still not too late. It's still not too late."
So for anybody else, you have to, if prior service, you have to have 20 years in by the time you're 60 in order to get back in. And it's not, I'm 57. It's not happening.
No.
So, but anyway, so I went in the service, and when I got out of the service, my first wife and I, rather than raise my kids in New York City, they could still have the New York attitude, but live in California. So I raised all my kids in California, Sacramento, my 3 oldest, and then my oldest in San Francisco, and was restaurants. I ran Irish pubs, English pubs. I ran 5-star Michelin restaurants. When I moved,
Which Michelin restaurant?
5-star Michelin.
Which one?
So American Festival Cafe in New York City, Volcano Union Inn. There was a few of them. Give me a second, I'll think of the other ones. But anyway, so
yeah, you're good. You're good. I was curious, like which just trying to think of like the different.
Because
I came from restaurants too, not like corporate America restaurants. That's what I did for 10 years going into.
Yeah, I don't think I ever
college.
really. Probably the closest thing I ever came to a corporate restaurant was I worked for a group called Restaurant Associates. They ran the Brasserie, Four Seasons. The restaurants were on the ice rink at Rockefeller Center. There were 3 of them there.
Oh, cool.
The Trattoria, big restaurants. They did all the concessions at the U.S. Open, the tennis U.S. Open, and that's kind of how I got in. I mean, it was growing up Irish Catholic in New York City at the time. You either became a priest or you went into the restaurant business.
Yeah.
Well, give me a fork and a knife, buddy.
Yeah.
So I did that and was managing an old historic hotel in Amador County in wine country, Northern California, called the St. George Hotel.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I've heard this story before.
And
Yeah,
an
yeah.
old commander of mine and his wife came and stayed at the hotel, and they said, "Oh, you'd love the real St. George." Where's that? I have no idea. And they said, "Just come visit." And I came and visit, fell in love with it. And long story short, actually what happened was I said, "I love it, but I have a great job. If anything changes, this is where I'm coming." Literally less than 2 months later, the owner came in and said, "I'm dying of cancer. I've sold the hotel. You're all out of work."
Oh, geez.
And I'm pretty sure I was the only one that went, "Yes."
You're like, that's the ticket.
Packed it up, came to St. George, Southern Utah, and never left. Pretty much the whole time I've lived in Washington, with a small time frame where I tried to live in St. George and didn't like it, and I moved back to Washington.
Because it's so far away.
Yeah. Everybody says that. It's so far.
Oh, yeah, well, it's going into the city, right? Like it's
yeah.
going into at least that's what they used to say. I don't know. I'm
yeah.
not from here. When did you move here? What year?
2017.
2017.
So it
okay.
seems like, because if you know anything about me, I'm super involved in everything. I love to be involved and give service and lend a helping hand, and it just feels like I've been here for 30 years.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. Is it what you expected? Like, was there any surprise around, being a small town, Southern Utah? Because you come from these cities. My wife and I moved here from Orange County, Huntington Beach,
gotcha.
in 2015. I was born up in Salt Lake, up in the Sandy area. And I went to a military school in a small town in New Mexico. And so when moving here, I knew what I was getting into. I was like, oh yeah, when I went to high school, we had one Walmart, right? And a movie theater.
And it was called The Store.
It was called, yeah, it's just the store. I'm going to go
going to the store?
The store. Yeah, exactly. So going from the big city, going to a metropolitan type area to this kind of a town, was it a nostalgia? Did it take you back to Sacramento when you were younger?
I think moving to small towns was easy because of my involvement in the military and being at different places that were so out of line with whatever how I grew up. I mean, I grew up in a town of 15 million people, and then
right.
Volcano, California, the town I ran this restaurant, was 103 people, no stop sign, no stoplight. It was.
Oh, wow.
It was a gold mining town, so it was a touristy town. It was busy as heck. There'd be thousands of people there on the weekend, but Monday morning it was empty.
Yeah.
And so I fell in love with that. To be able to get up in the morning and walk around and say hi to everybody. You knew all your neighbors. And it was such a culture shock, but it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. And so that's literally, I mean, I've lived in San Jose. I even, I tried to live in San Francisco. I thought, okay, it's going to be just like New York. No. But it was great. I mean, I loved it. It was so cool. And the culture and the arts and there was a festival every weekend. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but I loved it.
So moving here, What incited you to run for city council? Have you done this before in any of those other places that you've been?
Yes and no. So in the 90s, Roseville, California, just outside of Sacramento, was going through similar growth that we are now. A lot of, it was a small town. There was a turkey farm there.
That's just outside of Tahoe. It's only like about an hour outside of Tahoe.
So you have Sacramento, and just to the northeast of Sacramento that butts up against it, kind of like Washington is to St. George. It was the next town. It was in another county.
Yeah.
But it was growing like crazy. And I also there, very involved in the Chamber of Commerce, very involved in the community. I helped put together the holiday parade every year. And I saw a lot of things going on similar to here. You had all this growth and nobody being held accountable for it and, just kind of doing their thing and not asking the community for their input and all that stuff. So I planned on running. I put my name in, but it was this growth measure that they had going on. This no growth measure was so important to the establishment. Let's say the people that I sided with, that they said, look, we'll back you on the next election if you back out, because the guy we want to win can't win if you run because you're popular enough to take votes from him. So I said, okay, I'll get out. And
politics at its root, right there.
Yeah, dude, totally. So very similar there.
So what ended up happening with that? As you watch them grow, because now you can look back at it.
Yeah, it was 1996, and it's done exactly as you would think. I mean, growth is inevitable, right? It's coming. Right. Hopefully you plan for it right. Like all the stuff they're trying to do downtown Washington, I love it. But you only get to do it once. You got to do it right.
Yeah.
And just as I thought, that community has probably tripled in size. It has one of the nation's biggest shopping malls.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. Just kidding.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, I don't know if that was really forethought, but I don't think they could have avoided that.
Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of high tech, a lot of industrial, a lot of manufacturing, things that we would hopefully have in Washington.
Yeah, we want to encourage that.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, so those things happened, and now looking at it now, 2 years ago, I ran just to see how I would do. I always say of all the losers, I came in first.
Nice.
I lost in the primary.
Okay.
If one of them died or jumped out of line, I'd have been next, right? It didn't happen, of course.
Okay.
But not being related to anybody, not being from here, I did pretty good. I got like 13, 15% of the vote. No complaints.
Yeah.
And it was a good experience.
Yeah.
You quickly find out when you run, you think, oh, everybody loves me. I love everybody. You find out who your friends are, and you find out who your friends aren't.
Yeah.
Right? For sure.
Yeah.
And as clean as you try and keep your campaign, it gets a little dirty at times. People like to throw things at each other, and it happens.
It's getting pretty dirty around the South these days.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I haven't heard so much though in Washington. It seems like it's been pretty.
Yeah, not so much.
There's 5 candidates from the beginning, right?
There were 6. Doug,
that's right.
Doug Scheel, who's on a planning commission.
Somebody talked him out from running.
What he said.
Somebody did that.
He realized, he's like, dude, I'm retiring. My wife will kill me. This is a lot of work. I'm out. So he, super nice guy, but he realized it was a lot.
Yeah.
And it is, even for a small town like this, and it's still a small town.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work, even though the city council are considered part-time. You still have to study up on things. You got to walk.
Yeah, I don't know why people say that. I don't know where that comes from.
What?
That it's part-time.
I know. Because that's what they pay you, part-time.
Yeah, but that doesn't dictate whether something's part-time or not.
Hopefully you don't do it for the money.
That just means you're getting paid nothing to do a full-time job. Like, that's just, it's still a full-time job.
Right, totally.
The quantity of dollars doesn't dictate how you determine that. But anyway, I hear that all the time.
So yeah. Anyway, so I ran 2 years ago, and I call myself Washington's biggest cheerleader. I run the Chamber of Commerce. I put on a ton of community events. Sometimes I think even more than the community puts on for the community. The Hot Air Balloon Festival, Music in the Park, creating a coalition of neighborhood associations so that not homeowners associations, neighborhood associations, so they can be involved and meet with community police officers. They can actually have town hall meetings. They can meet the people that are building businesses in their neighborhoods and really be involved. Because how many times do you meet somebody that says, oh, you hear it now. I didn't know the election was November 21st. Dude, we've been telling you for 3 months. Yeah. It's everywhere. It says it everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh.
People don't know where to look anymore, though.
Well,
And I guess because it is everywhere, and it's nowhere, right? It's like for decades, probably 100 years, everybody went to one place to find out what was going on.
Sure.
The newspaper,
and it doesn't exist anymore.
It's gone. It's gone. And then it was replaced by this really amazing thing that you could it's in your pocket. So it's so easy to access. Like you don't even have to do it. Nobody has to drive and deliver it to you. It's just right there, right?
My dad calls it the Google.
The Google.
The Google.
Yeah, it's just right there. And I think because of that convenience, its value has whittled its way to zero.
Sure.
And so now as the consumer, they don't see the value in it. And then there's this element of I'm only interested in what I'm doing now because I'm not trying to absorb myself in what I should know. It's what do I think I should know, and then they can go seek out their own little individual paths,
right.
And they probably could walk through all these messages showing them where the election is,
right.
But they didn't care about the election. It was never on their radar to begin with. So why would they look at that thing and actually have it register in their mind?
Yeah,
it's just crazy.
Well, and there's so many different things to look at. We're very visual people, and there's a lot of visual stuff to look at. And,
there's lots.
And I'd rather sit on the toilet and look at TikTok for 2.5 hours than try and figure out whether or not I paid my utility bill or.
Yeah, it's easy to ignore the stuff that you normally you should be paying attention to.
True.
Sitting on the toilet for 2 hours is probably not good for you. I would not recommend
especially
that.
at my age. Your legs go numb.
Yeah.
You need a spotter.
I think that's how you get hemorrhoids or something. I think that's somebody told me that one time. I don't know if it's true.
I don't know. Shoot, I hope not. But yeah, so anyway, so I decided to run, and I just, again, we all get along pretty well. I could work with any of them, but there are things you hear, the people complaining about the public hearings. People are complaining about the skate park. What's the other one? The other big one that I hear all the time. There's just different things. And for me, my main thing is the reason I want to run is because I have a voice. I'm pretty loud. We've established that. But I want to be that voice for everybody that doesn't know these things. I want to make sure if you don't know, it's because you chose not to know, not because you didn't have the opportunity to know.
Yeah. Well, and some of that's just tough to navigate. And so there wasn't like there's not a single topic or issue that, cause it sounded like growth. Is that what like perked your interest in joining city council? Was there a single, from my experience so far, it seems like there's these one events or these one issues that kind of like, just got the
that's it. I'm getting in.
Well, it's the bug in their ear, or it's like the little seed that was planted. Is there anything like that?
No. For me, it's all encompassing. It's everything. I'm already involved. For me to be that much more involved is a benefit not only to the residents of the city but also to the small businesses. As the Chamber of Commerce for Washington, we're kind of the champion for the mom and pops, the 1 to 10 employees who get lost in the shuffle in the bigger chambers. They go sit in a corner, nobody recognizes them, and they're not looking to make $1 million. They're not like the Ramcos of the world or, Vacation. They just want to pay their bills, pay their employees, and have some money left over at the end of the month. And how can they do that if they don't know how to market and they don't have somebody on their side? So that's always been me. I've always been the champion for the underdogs, and so same thing with the community. I mean, it's just that much more of an opportunity to help. And if I don't get in, I'm not like some of these guys where I'm just going to lose my mind and, be depressed for 6 months. Yeah, I'll be bummed, but I'm going to continue helping like I always do. Yeah. Probably more so.
Yeah. There'll be another election in 2 years. There's just another one around the corner.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Running is a lot of work.
You have no polls to go by here. It's it's not Salt Lake's got polls, and we're too small here.
It's too expensive. It is. It's very expensive. So much money. There's so much money in that.
So we don't do anything like that. I will wake up the morning of the 22nd, and I'll be flying to Charleston, South Carolina for Thanksgiving to spend with my family. So I'll be on a plane when I find out that I won or lost, probably. Yeah. Or maybe a week later because they're still hand counting ballots.
Well, I mean, the hand counting is actually faster. Like if they actually organized it. So this is an interesting transition. There's when I first started this. A couple of the people that I reached out to is like, because it's been the vast majority have been politicians that I've interviewed on the show, either aspiring or otherwise. And a few of them had asked me specifically, "Hey, are you a part of this, election integrity group that's in Washington County?" And they were very like suspicious of like who I'm affiliated with, right? I was like, I'm just a guy with a microphone. Like I'm very curious about this, and whoever else wants to join me in it is great, it can, but that's it. That was like the very beginning of it. But they always brought that election integrity group in, and so have you looked into this at all? Have you looked in, because there's stuff nationally. There's stuff nationally that's been going on, like ballot stuffing and legitimate cases in which there were fraud on the electric. Like
it's always something. Like, hanging chads was the big thing when Bush was running, right?
Agreed.
When I was a kid, it was the Mayor Daley, getting dead people to vote for him in Chicago. Yep. I mean, it was all these things. Here, it's the voter integrity. It's and I know
it's processing. It's the process in which we do it, I think, is what they're challenging. Not necessarily that there is voter fraud.
The internet is not reliable enough and not secure enough to make sure that everybody gets their vote counted according to them. That needs to be hand counted. Now, for me, there's going to be errors on either side of it. It's just whatever is the fastest way and the safest way to do it. Do it. I mean, it's that's why. And we've had a couple of those folks from the voter integrity group, who shall remain nameless, say, hey, I can't vote for you if you don't side with me. Okay, well, don't vote for me. I'm sorry. I just don't have enough information for me to make a educated decision on this. I'm happy with the way things are, but if there's a better way to do it, then let's do it that way.
Yeah.
Quit telling me. Quit telling me about it. Just let's figure it out and do it. I mean, it's.
Well, I think the challenge is because 3 county commissioners could basically change the process.
Sure,
right? That's as much as needs to be. That's the total number of people that need to care about this, right? Truthfully, right? Is that there's basically 3 people that could make a change to the way we count and we do voting, right?
Which means that they're happy with the way it is.
Which means that they're happy with the way that it is. And so to the citizens that are concerned and see that some of these other precincts and some of these other things that have occurred, right? Some using the same systems that we have. Is that all? Does that at all like register you? Looking at the country as a whole as a macro and some of the slippery slopes that we tend to slide down, right? Looking back in history and, being able to see, hey, it was Roseville, right? Roseville. Yeah. Roseville, they probably made some mistakes along the way.
Sure.
And how can we not do those things? Do you see anything in the election side that you've thought, hey, this is probably something we might need to change, or no, not really?
I really haven't seen anything that I would say needs to change drastically. There's always going to be things. I think one thing that changed in the last election, and they're seeing that they made a mistake, is getting rid of public comment.
Oh yeah.
That's a big issue right now, and
to qualify, they got rid of public comment on developments, so like public comment on specific development changes, whether it's zone changes or approvals
to the general plan and all that stuff,
because they've made those available during the planning commission meetings, not the city council election meetings, right? So they just said, hey, it's city council, no public comment at city council. If you want to make a specific public comment, you can do that in front of a microphone during planning commission. And then all of submissions, like written submissions, occur between that meeting and the city council meeting, right? It's like open to be commented on.
Right.
But at that one meeting, nobody says anything about those development projects, right?
Right. And in my opinion, I mean, whether it's law or it's in the book or not, you voted me in. I should always listen to you. You are the people that got me where I am from the minute, not just the minute I take office, but from the minute you vote me in and they say you won to the minute I'm out. I should be listening to you, and I should give you the opportunity to be heard. Now, that doesn't mean you get up there with a tinfoil hat on and act kooky in front of get your point out and let's argue the point and move on. I think they should always have the opportunity to speak to their elected officials, because they got him in there,
Yeah.
you know? And so, and I think the current city council has, at least in Washington, has seen the error of their ways, and they're going to bring that back. You know, they say they read, you know, all their comments, the emails and YouTube and all that stuff. And, you know, great. But still, there's something to be said for being able to get up and voice your opinion. And you'll know when people truly disagree with something because there's a crowd there, you know, and if there's a crowd there, give them the opportunity to speak, you know, get one person out of the group to bring up one point and speak to it. We don't need 80 people up there saying the exact same thing. I get it. You all are there for the same reason, but put the one person up there that's the most, you know, well-spoken, and let them get up there and make their point, kind of thing.
Sometimes I think, like as a society, we have this battle. It's like goes all the way back to kids, because I see it at the elementary school, right? And then it's just like raising, because I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old, right?
Yeah,
I have all boys, right?
Oh, good boy.
That's
the way to do it.
It's this balance. It's this constant balance of discipline versus fun, right?
Sure.
In their mind, and then to add this other like fourth dimension of imagination versus reality, right? Like we're balancing all of these different things, right? And we get into these boxes of rules, and it's like, because this is a rule, there's no deviating from what we've stated the rule is, right? And I'm never gonna forget the day that St. George City shut down like that first of the month public comment.
Open mic. We call it open mic.
Open mic night. And the shutdown of that felt so, it felt like first grade. Somebody was enforcing the rules like to a room full of first graders, truthfully. Like I felt like there was temper tantrums that were needing to be thrown, and the teacher was having to stand up and draw the line, this really hard line in the sand that nobody is to talk without raising their hand, right? Like this really like rigid box of rules where in leadership, that's not how it works.
Well,
right?
and it made people upset, and it actually made people act like first graders.
Yeah, it makes it worse. It makes the whole situation worse.
Yeah, they really got ticked off at that.
I think Washington, at least the city council, you know, that's definitely a point that I don't think is going to play well for very long, right? Anytime you shut down those types of situations. So I agree with you there. I don't.
And it will affect, if they don't change it, it will determine who gets reelected. Really,
yeah, that's the whole purpose of the vote.
You know, and things are really changing right now. You know, when I moved here 7 years, even 5 years ago, 3 years ago, it was still a good old boy town. People were voting for the third and fourth generation family members. You know, the mayor and the city council member are both related, you know, and that happened a lot, and it still happens, but it's changing. You have all these people moving in that, and I hate to say it, but it kind of is a popularity contest in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
The majority of the people don't read the issues. They go, oh, I like his teeth. And they vote for that person, or they vote for you because they shook your hand, or they put a name with a face, you know, kind of thing. But quickly going away are the days where they're voting for somebody because they've lived here forever.
Yeah, it's true. And this is the first election I think that's really transitioning that across the county. So thinking about some of these other issues, I think one of the first things listed on your website was water being an issue, and we talked about a little bit about growth. How much educated have you gotten on water since you've gotten here?
So, you know, being with the chamber, you get to sit in on a lot of meetings with the Water Conservancy, or they come and speak at different events. You get to, you know, I'm on the Committee for Economic Development for the county, and it's a big issue because they want to build homes. They want to build affordable homes. They want to build more affordable homes. And where's the water coming from, right? And we live in a desert. I don't know if anybody's, you know, tuning in lately, but we're in a desert. So water is a hot commodity, and it has to come from somewhere. And I don't understand the whole, you know, the dynamic.
We're the third most arid state in the entire United States. Third most arid. We have the and depending on which website at which year you're looking at, it's either the third or the second. We have the least amount of water. It's us and Nevada, essentially. Us and Nevada and kind of Arizona, but Arizona sometimes is like fifth or sixth. But
we're also the fifth most expensive housing market in the nation. So if they keep that up, we're not going to have to worry about water because nobody's going to come here and buy a home.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a huge issue. And so, you know, they're talking about all these, you know, they built Quail Lake, they built, you know, Sand Hollow. Now they're looking at Warner Valley. they need water. They have to have water.
Toka Reservoir just got
Tocqueville Reservoir,
Yep.
all these different reservoirs that feed into each other, which are critically important. Is the pipeline going to happen? I can't see it happening, but I believe in miracles. You know, who knows? Who knows if it'll happen or not? Is it going to happen tomorrow? Absolutely not. But they need to be thinking of these things because, and I hear this all the time, although it's kind of, I try and muddle it around in my head. They're like, you know, we've taken into consideration the water for the homes that are here now and the homes that are scheduled to be built. It's the homes 10, 20, 30 years out that we need to worry about it. Well, we need to worry about it even for the homes that are here already. When I was a kid,
yeah, we've met the average yield before. Sorry to take you off track, but we can count on the reliable yield is what the Conservancy District calls it. The reliable yield average is how much water we can expect to get every single year. We have officially in 2023 exceeded the reliable yield on current dwellings, not like that are scheduled out, right? So we've already met this threshold,
right?
So yeah,
and you can't raise the threshold without knowing where the water's coming from.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, the water has to show up, right? The water has to show up, and if just because we had one year last year that was great, we could drop instantly back into a drought. The drought averages that have been pulling that reliable yield down just in the next year. So we're at a year by year basis here at the current moment too, with what exactly we have built already. In my mind, this is just from the Water Conservancy District.
It's tense.
This is just. It's tense. We're right there on the razor thin edge, at least from my experience.
And I was just going to say, when I was a kid, I remember even in New York, water was an issue there a few times, and you would have odd and even days that you could water your lawn, or that you could use the outside spigot, or and they would keep track of who was using the water and all that stuff because we couldn't trust you to make those decisions on your own, Yes. Like gas back in the day. If you had an even plate, you got gas on this day,
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I remember my granddad going and stealing my dad's plate from his car so he could go
Grandpa.
So he could get gas. But we have to be responsible too. It's not just, they want the county and they want the state to come up with ideas, but we're big boys and girls. We got to do stuff on our own too to make sure that we cut back,
So knowing what you know about it, like, what does the city do? What is the what's something that, knowing what you know about city council, what they vote on? What is it that we can vote on?
I know a lot of it comes from the Water Conservancy District, but each of the cities have play into that, and I know that they're working hard on making sure that they have a 10, 20, 30-year plan because, like you said, we know where we are today, but what's going to happen tomorrow, and it needs to be really thought out. I love the growth. I think it's great that people are moving here and they're coming, whether we want them to or not. But how many homes are you going to build before you go, crap, we're out of water? And you can do all these landscaping tricks and, put in fake grass and rocks and all that stuff. But people are still using water in their house. What are we doing to cut that back while at the same time figure out how we're going to get more water in, kind of thing. And the city is working on that. I do know that. So
yeah. Well, so economic development though is the big driver for you, knowing knowing what you've done in the past. What are some of the things that Washington City was voted by a couple of different sources as the best place to start a new business?
Yeah, Wallet Hub voted them the number one place to open a small business.
In
America. 2 years in a row.
2 years in a row.
If you like Wallet Hub, that's great. Some people go, it's a Wallet Hub. Right?
I'm not going to argue with you there. It's not going to argue. I didn't know Wallet Hub before I heard the news. Sounds like great. It's a great acknowledgement, right?
Yeah. It's like saying Arby's voted Arby's the number one place to get a steak sandwich.
I mean, if you look at just the demographics, 80% of the city is residentially built out. And
98.9% residential.
Yeah. So it's much bigger than the 80% that I quoted. But
it's a ton of
it seems like a great opportunity for a business to start there. You're like, well, if there's just a bunch of people that live there and no other businesses, I think it's obvious that would be a great place to start a business.
So...
Right?
It's everything. Yes, for sure.
I mean, just as on the simple, dynamics.
You got all these people coming.
But
where are they finding jobs, right? Where are they getting jobs? And not just a job, but a good job, and which means they need affordable housing, or more importantly, housing that's affordable. And in order to do that, we've got to have, things like Tech Ridge. We need, the manufacturing and the industrial area off there by the airport that they're building 5 million square feet of industrial space. We need more jobs that can pay for these homes. We need people that are willing. I don't know what happened during COVID. It was like invasion of the body snatchers to me. All of a sudden, nobody's working, and they're going. And when they decide to go out for a job, they're negotiating, saying, "Well, that sounds great, but this guy will pay me $2 more an hour." And then they do hire him, and the guy doesn't show up for work. This is what's happened since COVID.
Somebody told me that they know they're a friend or family member that's working 2 full-time remote work jobs because they're working from home, but they got hired twice by 2 companies to work full-time. And he doesn't have to show up to either of them, so neither of them know that he's working.
No idea.
They have no idea.
God bless America.
God bless America. You wonder why unemployment is basically zero. And this has been my contention the whole time with the unemployment numbers. It's like, you can't. How can you gauge that? Why are we looking at as a number? Because I literally could get a job working as a YouTube content creator and make enough money to survive. In some cases, right? Now, inflation's putting us into a limit where that's not going to be the case anymore, right? Which I think is part of the way the economy works, right? It squeezes out when we have these, these bubbles that grow that are, basically fake income creators. Those things get squeezed out by the macroeconomics of it, right? It just can't. It's not sustainable, right? So we need to have legitimate long-term jobs,
traditional jobs, like go to work jobs, like
that create goods and services that actually matter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It's like so simple.
Yes, America. Well, and look at it. And not to knock, YouTube content creators, but there's people out there
on YouTube
right,
content.
Exactly. There's kids making millions of dollars on Twitch.
I'm not making any money doing this.
Right,
exactly.
It's costing money. It's costing money. But there are people doing that. And if they could do that, why in the hell would they go and get a 9-to-5 job?
Exactly.
Right? I'm one of these. I'm a glutton for punishment, right? I literally, when I came here, I was like, I'm going to retire. I don't need to work. But I'm also one of these kind of guys. I can't sit still. And the Chamber of Commerce literally started from scratch, from 0 to 200 members in 3 years, and it's worked. Do I make a lot of money doing it? Hell no. Do I love it? Absolutely. I love what I do. I get up every morning. We need more people like that. We need people that go to work and they love what they do, and they love taking care of their families, and they make a good dollar, and they make enough. They can buy a house here in town, and
just rent. Even
rent, but you can't even find a house for rent in this town.
You can find houses for rent, but the rent is it's expensive. It's expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And when they hit the market, you're competing with 3 and 4 other different renters. You're having to pay application fees every single time, whether you get the place or not. You're having to pay for the fees to get. It's just.
I paid $3,500 a month for a studio apartment in San Francisco on Van Ness. You pay that here. You're paying that here.
Yeah, not as extreme, but
it's close.
As a portion of the wage for sure, right?
Yeah.
The affordability, right? If you use the index, like the affordability index, how much money you make, what's the cost of the rent of the actual property and cost of living? We're right there with the top cities around, right?
For sure.
And part of it's truthfully the forefathers of the county. It was designed this way. They wanted tourism. They wanted their main economic driver.
And we are a tourism community.
And retirees, right? You put these 2 things together in a bowl. You get a community that doesn't spend a whole lot of money, so businesses can't pay a high enough living wage. And then you get these people, the outsiders that come in to buy second homes because it's a beautiful place to live and there's all this stuff to do on their off time, on their free time, and it raises the prices.
Jackson Hole, Wyoming,
Sedona, California, Park City, Utah.
Yep.
I could rattle off the list. Neil Walters said this at the Housing Action Coalition
I was there.
forum. He said, you can have one or other. I'm paraphrasing, okay? But he gave a list. He's like, here's a list of solutions. It's so matter of fact. He's as calculated as a guy can be. I really appreciate his perspective because he's honest.
He is.
But it was like line number 7. You get to have one or the other. You get to be a tourism community, or you can be a community that has affordable housing. But the 2 don't typically ever coexist.
No.
right?
And this is a tourism community.
This is a tourism community, and that was how it was by design. So as we transition, we have to decide, like the cities have to decide, we love the tourism. We love these outdoor spaces that create these environments for us to live as permanent residents.
Right.
But what's the cost? And then what are the things that we can do to kind of rebalance that out? Because if the economy really takes a shudder, which is 100% possible in my mind, like the possibility is very high. I would definitely bet higher on that than the opposite coming.
Sure.
If the economy tips like that, the economic mix that we have is better than it used to be, but it's still vulnerable to tourism needing sales revenue to pay for public safety and all these other things. It's vulnerable to tourism not coming, local businesses that people live here shutting down. The alternative isn't, well, I'll just go get a job at the factory, because there is no factory. They have to leave, right? And when the housing market crashed in 2007, 2008, have you heard any of these stories?
Not specifically, but I remember those days.
So about 35, it was like 35 to 37% of the entire economy was built around just residential construction.
Oh, yes, right.
Okay, so that's just residential
Everywhere.
construction. Now the county right now, construction is about 27 to 30%, but that's construction as a macro,
Right.
Not like
As a whole.
as a whole. Like it was almost 50% construction in Washington County in that time frame. When the housing
Which is
market crashed,
crazy.
when the housing market crashed, every framer left. Every tradesman left. They had to go somewhere else. Most of them went up to North Dakota to go into the oil fields, and they never came back.
What do you think is going to happen here? You have all these guys here building right now, and nobody buying the homes, and they're just...
Well, and the housing market's moving. Our supply isn't what it was. We had 7,000 homes. We had 7,000 active homes on the market before the housing market tipped.
And 2,000 real estate agents.
No, in 2007, 2008.
Oh, then, okay. Gotcha.
We still had a lot of real estate agents. We have a lot of real estate agents now. But we just didn't have the supply back then was massive before the tip, right?
Right.
So right now, the housing market collapsing, I think the residential construction industry, I think it's actually pretty durable. Because of the way we've learned from that mistake, and it's still basically all the same guys, man. They took their beatings, and then they came back after it. Most of them all regrouped, and I think they're all back. They've rebuilt their teams, and I think they've learned from that. However, there's a lot of other vulnerabilities in the economy that we shift those things out. When people leave, the residual impact on these economies are on these tourism towns, especially when we don't have a metro around us to support us. It's bad. And we have such a we have amnesia.
Salt Lake is considered our nearest metro.
I know. Well, because it's in the state boundaries. But
even though we're closer to Vegas.
But yeah, we don't have anybody supporting us. We're an island, and so.
We need commercial. We need commercial in Washington.
Do we need commercial, or do we need like industrial manufacturing?
Well, I guess in my brain, that's also more of a macro. I say we need more than residential. We need manufacturing. We need industrial. We need more flights out of St. George Airport.
I think we need a train.
I love you. I've always said, why does a town like St. George not have a train? The closest train is Medina, right? Or what's that little ghost town out there past Enterprise?
Burl?
It's Medina, I think is what it's called. And then Cedar, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
It stops.
That's it. How come we've never had a train here?
I don't know
when
why
I win the Powerball, I'm going to be like old man Flagler.
Somebody told me
I'm going to build a train.
I think Rick Atkin told me that we are the largest city without a train, like without a railroad. Like we are the largest city in the country that doesn't have a railroad.
It's crazy.
That's crazy.
Well, that also explains why we have so many trucking companies here.
We were the donkey route. Because there was no caravan route through St. George, right? So like if you're coming from Arizona, you're coming from New Mexico, the only way to get through St. George, because of the gorge, because of the geography of it, right? They just never, we missed the big railroad construction boom. Those times when the federal government put a bunch of money into building infrastructure and those things, St. George just never was on the map to do those things. So we got a road, right? We got a road back in the 70s, but since then, like thinking about how do we sustain ourselves and how do we create an environment to where we're not isolated as an island. airports are great. I'm not going to say we don't have great airports, but the fact that Vegas is just legitimately just right down the street from an airport perspective, building a railroad that would be able to connect us elsewhere to have massive cargo. I just feel like.
And it's cheaper to fly out of Vegas than it is St. George. Just saying.
It's cheap.
Way cheaper.
It's cheaper to fly out of Vegas than almost any airport in the country. It's one of the cheapest airports in the country.
Pretty much.
So I don't know. I'm a proponent of that, but I don't hear anybody talking about that.
Yeah, I don't know how easy that is with all the land being bought up, and I mean, where would you put it? But I have always said, why don't we have a railroad? We need a railroad. Somebody's got the money. Put a railroad in.
Somebody's got money. Somebody's somewhere.
Got money. So we don't.
Bitcoin whales.
Oh yeah.
Where's my Bitcoin whale, guys? Come on, let's pull some of that out.
Gary Vaynerchuk, help us out.
Come on, Gary V. He knows the importance of commodities and pushing goods.
Yes, he does.
Back to reality, like what we can actually do. I think Washington City's got some good plans, at least out by the airport. They've set some good foundations up for bringing in some good quality jobs, some jobs that are going to bring good sales revenue to the city and employment.
I hope so.
But I think
in theory, it sounds great, and they'll be building that for 15 years out there.
Yeah. The theory sounds great, but then it's also the execution and what you're doing at the Washington Chamber of Commerce. Maybe give me a quick, maybe not that it matters. We're close to your deadline here. What time we got here?
I don't know. We're good.
I don't want you to go too long. Give me one other topic. What's another topic that's really important to you about this election? Why should people be voting for you? What are you going to drive home for the voters of Washington City?
Well, my big thing, and I will stick to this to the day I die, is they need somebody that's on their side. That's somebody that's honest, can be their own man. I'm not somebody that's going to change. This has always been my issue, and I'm not saying that they don't always vote like this with good reason, but there's too many 5-0 votes. There's nobody's questioning. I think we have a couple of people currently on city council that are very naive and just go along with whatever, and can't be that way. You got to be asking questions. If somebody says, "Hey, that's not right," I'm going to look into it. Mm-hmm. It should be that way. You can't all be voting the same. It's impossible. You can't all be in agreement every single time. That's crazy. It just doesn't happen that way. Sorry.
It does raise a question. It does raise a question that, if we're all agreeing on it all the time, then is there is there something else at play? Is that
somebody would argue that that's because the planning commission has done their job and we've done all our homework. Well, no, not all the time. Not all the time. I'm sorry, and I think that many people, going back to my original comment, don't realize that things are the way they are, and they need to have somebody on their side, and they should be able to call me or their elected officials whenever and get a straight shooting answer. Even if you don't agree with me, I'm going to speak my piece.
Yeah.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that about you.
Yeah. I mean, like me or love me, that's the way I am. So, which is why I'm single. So,
which is why you're single.
Which is why, because I have no filter. So there you go.
Well, I think there's a lot to be learned from having different perspectives coming in city council.
And I'm not a politician. I mean, you know that. I'm not.
Yeah. We talked about that just before we started recording too. Like, there's certain personalities. What you see is what you get, right? And you feel like that's your MO, right? It's like, there's nothing to hide, right?
Yeah. Some people don't like that, and I'm sorry, but you have the right to the wrong opinion.
Nice. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. This has been awesome.
I wish you the best of luck. I hope
November 21st. Everybody vote.
November 21st.
That's the deadline.
You got to get it in. You got your ballots already in the mail. You're probably where are you at on the list?
I'm second on the list.
Second on the list.
Ed
Tracey. Go to Vote for FOR. Vote FOR. Ed Tracey. CEY.
Thank you.
.com. Find out more information about you, your history.
My phone number's on there. You can call me, email me. Happy to talk.
What's your phone number? You in one of your videos, you held it up.
916-770-9665.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.